Okay, welcome everyone. I think this is session 14. We're going to try to cover three of the talks
lectures.
today,
Yeah.
3 of the lectures today, and I will send out the charts when I send out the announcements for the videos. So those will be available for you to consult. That hopefully will help you get through this. And I'm going to turn it over to Ward, and go ahead, Ward.
Okay, why don't I start the share process?
Hold on, Ward. Let me mute everybody first.
Oh.
Yeah. Let me mute and then unmute.
Huh. Okay.
Go ahead and unmute Ward.
I'm unmuted now, right?
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
and Sam. Sam will be our
All
first reader.
right, let me see. Share. Okay, are you getting it?
We are.
Okay. So we've reached the 26th of December. As you may recall, on the 20th of December, Baba went into seclusion in the crypt cabin. There was no lecture that day, but there was the next day, and he began lecturing out the window of the crypt, which is now the samadhi. So at this stage, all the boys are ranged on a platform in front of him in different language groups. And over Christmas, Baba had all these events, so they skipped the lectures for several nights. But now on the 26th of December, they're resuming again. And it was really, at this time, the Mandali had been noticing these outbursts of strong emotion throughout the whole month, but it really began to build momentum at this point, and they were really noticing it. And the 1st of January was the real breakthrough day. Anyway, so today, there's going to be more on evolution, but this lecture actually has a lot of significant stuff in it, even though it's not that long. We're going to get the evolution in terms of the 4 elements, and there's going to be more on that in the second of these lectures. And now in this diagram, the topic of involution is going to start to get mentioned. And if we succeed in getting through it on the 28th of December, Baba starts going into the planes and the skies, which is going to be his dominant topic for the last 2 weeks. But let's see. So this is actually a very interesting lecture, as opposed to the ones you've heard until now, which is exceedingly boring, as I'm sure you all agree. So we start on the Monday, the 26th of December. Cassandra, do you have a reader?
Yes, we have Sam up first.
All right.
Earlier in this series of talks, we observed that creation contains Anant, innumerable light globes. Now, just as there are countless light globes, so we find countless cooled down worlds. The cooling down of each such world takes cycles of time, and the count of such cooled down worlds cannot be tallied. Imagine from this the total number of worlds and the expanses of time. It baffles the mind. It beggars description. But in spite of all this, when one realizes God and enters into the 7th plane, one feels as if only a single second has passed. That is, between the deep sleep and the reawakening with the real experience, it seems that practically no time elapsed, despite the myriad forms and lives one has passed through. Now, I know that from your point of view, the account of the long journey adds up to crores of years. Indeed, time beyond all reckoning. And when I look at it from your standpoint, to me also it seems a question of an illimitable expanse of time. But when I see from my own perspective, it appears as if no time passed, since none of this ever happened at all.
We could look at the chart now, but a crore is 10 million. So crores of years is tens of millions of years. Okay, and now this particular chart was just created by Nadia, and and I conceived it. There is a space for a chart on the manuscript that never got filled in. On the topic of the chart also was indicated. So this was a good guess of what it would have looked like. And this is basically that earlier chart. Remember the earlier chart we had on the 7 suns and the 3 planets? All that content is reproduced in the center and right. But the new element is the 7 moons, which Bob is about to tell us that are there. You may recall, let's see if I can very quickly find it. Yeah, like here, this chart. Remember A, B, and C, you see the M there for a moon. And we had that much earlier on. Let me see. Yeah, like here in this chart. This figure 8 shows the 3 planets, and then planet A moves inside and becomes a moon. Well, apparently, as an elaboration on that, these 3 planets, A, B, and C, the critical 3 planets at the head of the human life form processional, which have a total of 7 suns, as we saw earlier, have a total of 7 moons also. So here you can see, you may recall the light globe is shining its light on the reflection of planets A, B, and C, if you may recall that. And it illuminates those reflections, and thus the illuminated reflections, as in A, shine the light back on world A, and thus the illuminated reflection becomes the sun. Okay, that we all went over before, but apparently moons arise out of this also, 7 moons. So that's what this chart was created to illustrate. Where's the key? Oh yeah, here's the key. Yeah, maybe Sam, you could read the key here.
Key to figure 31. This figure, in effect, reproduces figure 22, except that now it incorporates the 7 moons associated with the 3 worlds, A, B, and C. The manifestation of these 7 moons is explained in this lecture. The source manuscripts do not provide any source diagrams here, though all 3 explanations manuscripts incorporate lacunae clearly intended for such. Figure 31 has been conceived and created to fill this space by the artist-editor team.
Okay. So now the lecture goes on.
Now, although the cooled down worlds are myriad, beyond count and measure, only 7 of them are manifested. How and why? Let us look into the matter. Earlier, we established that the 3 worlds, A, B, and C, have among them 7 suns. Now, one of the cooled down worlds shines before your eyes as the moon in the sky. This moon for this earth of ours. And the sun that we see is the one sun for planet A. This we have proved. Now this sun throws its light on the cooled down world, and from planet A, it appears to us as the moon. As we have noted, there are many cooled down worlds. But world B sees 2 moons, since it sees 2 suns. And world C sees 4 moons, since it sees 4 suns. As you remember, we illustrated why worlds A, B, and C have the number of suns that they do. And now, as we are explaining, moons as well, through the simile of the light of the lantern falling on mirrors and creating multiple reflections, which shine back on the shadows, representing these worlds opposite to them. The number 7.
By the way,
Oh.
I would say, though this section is short, it's very important.
The number 7. Now, what is the fun in all of this? As we saw earlier, there are 7 inhabited worlds. The skies are 7. There are 7 suns, 7 moons, 7 planes. Why is this number 7 playing such a prominent part throughout this story? Moreover, sanskaras too come in 7 colors. Why is this? This reappearance of the number 7 in all of these different domains is due to the fact that when energy clashed with Akash, it acquired 7 divisions. How did this happen? But first, before explaining this point, let me tell you a secret. Each individual human being is a universe. Now let us see how energy and Akash involve themselves in the constitution of this individual human. The 7 divisions that energy acquired manifest as the 7 openings in the head, viz. The 2 eyes, the 2 ears, the 2 nostrils, and the 1 mouth. Earlier, we explained that the first clash of energy and Akash created foam, waves, and drops.
Let's see. Maybe why don't we read this note? It's probably
Okay. As Baba explained it in the talks that he gave on the 5th and 6th and 7th December, when the ocean of God unconscious came into motion, 3 things were created: waves, foam, and bubbles, as pages 114 to 18 and 124.
so anyone who wants to go into this matter, those are the places to go to.
Where was I?
After the first sentence, 3rd paragraph, foam, waves, and drops.
Oh, yes. Now, to draw out more equivalences with the human body, energy corresponds to the head and foam to the throat. With this, let us put the matter of foam aside. We will return to it later.
Which Baba never does.
Coming to the point. With the first clash, both energy and Akash got divided into 7 parts. Energy, whose 7 divisions correspond to the openings in the head, as we have just seen, corresponds to the subtle. Akash corresponds to the gross, and its 7 parts are the 2 hands, 2 feet, 2 private parts, front and back, and trunk.
And this footnote 2 is probably worth reading.
The 14 parts of the body mentioned here come up again in Meher Baba's discourse, originally entitled The Circle, as they correspond to the members of the avatar's first circle. That original discourse is faithfully reproduced under the title The Circles in Meher Baba's discourses. revised
And then
sixth
it gets
edition, so-
reprinted in the 7th edition. So this is just where to go if you want to see these 14 parts of the body.
Thank you, Sam. I hear Margaret's awake in there, so we'll let you off the hook. Melissa J. Baba.
The four elements and the forms of evolution. Now I would like to draw a further connection between what we have been discussing and the species of evolution. When energy clashed with Akash, bringing about the division of energy into 7 parts, at the same time the 4 elements appeared. Appeared in quick succession: fire, water, air, and earth. Now all the forms in creation during the evolution from stone to vegetable retain a connection with the element of earth. Fish are connected with water. Birds have a connection with air, animals with fire, and humans with all 4.
Maybe we could read the table now, which expresses this, what we just read. Variable.
So shall I go horizontal?
Yeah, you could read them rows as sentences, actually.
Okay. So stone, metal, and vegetables are connected with earth. Fish are connected with water. Birds are connected with air. Animals are connected with fire. And humans are connected with all 4 elements.
And let's jump ahead to this chart, which expresses the very same idea. Okay, why don't I just go through this because it's not a, but by the way, there was no original for this. Nadia just had the idea of creating this chart. So it's a gratuitously thrown in chart, but I personally like it a lot. So it starts on the bottom right-hand quadrant, right? You see the arrow going around on the circumference. So electron, stone, metal, vegetable, and worm, all of these are associated with Earth. We threw in some of the species that Baba mentions, the electron, that little green worm, it's going to come up soon, tortoise. Then on the bottom left quadrant, you see that fish are associated with water. The top right, top left quadrant, birds are associated with air. And Baba has mentioned or will mention waterfowl, cocks, and some kind of a wattled bird. It could be a turkey. And on the top right, animal forms means mammals are associated with fire. And kangaroo is the first, monkey is the last. And there are a total of 84 lakhs of species in evolution. A lakh is 100,000. So that means there are a total of 8,400,000. Okay, we could read the key when we come back to this, but I thought it'd be good to look at that in connection with this chart. Okay, so we're on the second paragraph after the series of bird forms.
After the series of bird forms, the first form in the animal kingdom is the kangaroo. And this explains why its 2 front legs are so small. Earlier, after the last of the fish forms, the first class of birds is the waterfowl. Crabs are the last form in the fish kingdom.
Okay.
The hair and the head. Do you want me to read the key or the top?
Why don't you read the top, because the figure will come up on the next page.
Okay. All that we have been explaining today pertains only to the hair and has nothing to do with the head. What is the value of a hair, after all? Trying to understand the infinite hairs on the head has little value. Get a hold of the head through the help of the Sadguru, for it is out of the head that all the hairs come.
Okay, let's seize the moment. Here's the figure that Nadia cremated based on a source. And the key, which we could maybe read right now, is right here. Here you can see one of the sources. There are a number of sources for this, by the way, this particular figure.
Key to figure 32. Barbara introduced this analogy of the hair and the head at the end of his lecture as a way of underscoring that what he had been discussing until then pertained to the illusory creation, the hairs, and not the reality of God, the head. The identification of the hairs with the innumerable universes is given to us in the source diagram in Ramju's explanations in pencil, page 42. This can be understood with reference to Baba's earlier comment that each human being is his own universe.
Okay, and now we have that second paragraph above.
And to introduce the Sadguru to help you, create love for him. The Sadguru requires nothing. He is everything. Love alone is capable of attracting such a one towards you. Otherwise, whatever you do, you will just go on entangling yourself in the hairs.
Can you read that paragraph again?
Indeed,
It's to
and
induce.
to induce the Sadguru to help you, create love for him. The Sadguru requires nothing. He is everything. Love alone is capable of attracting such a one towards you. Otherwise, whatever you do, you will just go on entangling yourself in the hairs.
And this is the end of the lecture.
These hairs will all be shaved off at the time of Mahapralaya or Kiamat, leaving the head as it is, was, and always will be. Mahapralaya is just a clean shave and nothing more, as can be gathered from figure 32. So let the hair go and try to realize the head. The Sadguru can accomplish this for you if you make yourself love him above everything else, including your own self.
So that's that lecture.
Very good.
Okay.
You can start this one, Melissa, and then we'll
Okay.
do. Okay.
Crypt Cabin, Tuesday, 27th of December, 1927. The session began today with a recapitulation of some of the points Shri made yesterday. When energy clashes with Akash, the four elements issue from the encounter: fire, water, air, and earth. Now, in the series of evolution, the forms from stone to vegetable are associated with the earth. Fish have connection with water, birds with the air, animals with fire, and humans with all four. Shri went on. Now let us take the case of this one shadow of a light globe, which is to say, our own world. In this world, we find that Earth is everywhere, in the land below our feet, as well as at the bottom of the ocean. Similarly, water permeates all parts of the world, even on dry land, as well as in the streams, rivers, seas, oceans, etc. When we stand on the earth, water is beneath our feet, just as the foundation of earth underlies the ocean water. When one is above, the other is below, and vice versa. Similarly, air pervades all over the world, in India as well as in America. And the same is true of fire. And by fire, we mean tej, lightning. This
Maybe
fire,
you could read that note because tej is an
yes,
important word.
tej points to a wide field of meanings, including luster, brilliance, energy, glory, strength, heat, light. Elsewhere, Baba has used tej as a term for lightning.
Vij. Yeah, we had that word Vij back in figure 11. But here he's talking about uses tej instead.
Okay, I think I see where we were. Okay, lightning. This fire permeates everywhere, but it is covered with ether, or a layer of ether. Fire, or tej, is especially connected with animals, and it is for this reason that their hunger heat, Jahar Ani, is so intense. Probal. Animals eat so horribly much food, as if they feel that they were born for the sole purpose of eating. Victoria Gardens in Bombay houses an elephant that is always eating whenever you visit, any time of the day. Fact.
We can probably skip the note. It's just a famous zoo, gardens and zoo in Bombay.
All right, thank you, Melissa.
Mhm.
And Gene Wilson, AKA Jim. Go ahead and unmute. There you go.
Yeah, that's my better half. Okay. So we see that these four elements, fire, water, air, and earth, pervade everywhere. We also saw that the forms of evolution, from stone to vegetable, have connection with earth, fish with water, birds with the air, animals with fire, and humans with all four. Now we shall see how evolution takes place. But first of all, remember the order of the major species: stone, metal, vegetable, worm, fish, bird, animal, and human. Now, after the vegetable kingdom, there appears a worm so absolutely green and so similar to vegetation that one can hardly distinguish it from grass.
We have a
Want to read the
footnote. Yeah, read the
Okay.
lower footnote. Yeah.
It's really small. Perhaps Baba is referring to a phasmid or some other insect of this kind. In Baba's image over the years, worm encompassed insects, worms, reptiles, amphibians, and other animals with a tendency to crawl.
If you happen to Google images of phasmids, you'll see, these little insects that look just like parts of vegetation, a leaf or a twig or things like that. It's just a guess. But that could be one of those species that he may be referring to.
So this is similar to vegetation that one can hardly distinguish from grass. This is the first worm form, and the last, the kachra or tortoise, inhabits moist earth, earth saturated with water, as the evolving consciousness, wanting identification with fish form, seeks to transition from land to water. Naturally, fish form follows. Crab, kekra, is the final fish form. Atma now wants to emerge from the water, and so the crab numbers among the turned forms, since its face is now turned toward the earth. After the crab, the watercock fowl, Pancobdi, stands as the first form in the series of birds. Mark how some birds want watery environments. The first form at the beginning of the bird series exhibit this connection forms, which gives way to an affinity and connection with air, and finally with the earth. The last form from one in the bird genus is the cock, which has wings, but nonetheless lives on the ground.
And let's see, we've already seen this. Oh, okay, let's read to the end of the paragraph and then go back to these keys and figures. Yeah.
Okay, it lives on the ground and can hardly fly. The very last bird is big with long legs, a long beak, and a blood-red bag of flesh hanging under its chin as if its throat were hanging down.
Why don't you read this note also? Yeah.
Baba appears to be describing some large bird with a wattle, such as a turkey. It should be borne in mind that the boys to whom Baba was giving these lectures may never have encountered birds of this kind. And thus the graphic description, doubtless enacted by Baba with vivid gestures and facial expressions.
You can imagine Baba sort of showing what a turkey looks like, right? He was such a good mimic. Okay, so now we had this figure, which we've already talked about. Why don't we read the key and then take a look at the next figure?
Okay. Key to figure 33 on the previous page. Figure 33 illustrates the evolution of form and consciousness as a clockwise movement from the bottom right quadrant round the full circle or cycle to the top right. Yeah, circle. Each quadrant corresponds to one of the four elements as explained in this and the preceding lecture. The evolution from stone through metal and vegetable to worm, bottom right, occurs within the element of earth. Fishes inhabit the element of water, bottom left. Birds fly in the air, top left. And animals, by which Baba meant mammals, are dominated by the element of fire or tej, top right, which drives them constantly to eat. At the center of figure 33 is the human form, which culminates evolution and integrates all four elements. None of the manuscripts have provided a source for figure 33 or have indicated that Baba introduced a diagram here. Figure 33 has been conceived and created entirely by the artist editor team to illustrate Baba's comments on the role of the four elements in evolution.
Okay, so this was a gratuitously introduced diagram with no source indicated. We thought it was worth it just to express the idea. And now to look at this figure, there are many figures like this one in various other sources. Infinite Intelligence has one like this, Tiffin Lectures, and God Speaks also. So one of the essential things to see, okay, so it begins on the bottom right, forms, and thus you have stone, metal, vegetable, worm, fish, bird, animal. And the seventh cardinal form is the human form. From there, this would be after the reincarnation process. You have the 6 planes of consciousness within the subtle world, as Baba was using the word subtle in those days. And these are some of the human types, some of the names he associates it. Rarav or yogi. Yeah, Rarav is a traveler, a wanderer. Probably Duncan's book, Wayfarers, was his translation of this word. And in these days, Baba tended to use the word yogi to designate someone on the lower planes. A Mahayogi, Maha means great, the 4th plane, a Wali, a 5th plane, and a Pir, the 6th plane. And there's some hint here, this is based on sources, of a differentiation between the mental sphere, 5th and 6th, and the subtle sphere, the 1st through 3rd, even though Baba wasn't regularly using that model in those days. And here you can see the 7th cardinal form is the human form, and the 7th plane is God. So this seems to suggest a parallelism between, a sort of an inverse parallelism between evolution and involution. In a fuller study of this, we could look at charts from God Speaks relating to that. But can you read this? So here's a source figure that we used for this. Can you read this key?
Okay. Key to figure 34. Figures 34 and 35, closely related to each other in much of their content, represent the entirety of the divine theme in the soul's journey from stone form to the realization of God in the 7th plane, that is, from bottom right to top left in figure 34. The evolutionary ascent through the kingdoms of evolution, right side, culminates in the achievement of the human as the 7th cardinal form. Yet here, the vision and realization of God is blocked by the curtain of samskaras, top center. The involutionary ascent through the planes, left-hand side, is accomplished by human individualities, some of whose major types, yogis, rawas, etc., are named on the far left. The groupings of the planes seem to mark the subtle sphere, 1 to 3, the mental sphere, 5 and 6, and the threshold between spheres, 4. The circling around the point, making the first plane as a diagrammatic element, appears in every one of the 6 source and analog diagrams. Though its meaning is never explained in the text, perhaps it signifies the turning which one has to undergo before entering into the spiritual path. The divine theme was previously represented in a different form in figure 12.
So this is how Nadia represented the turning by this. That's what we figure it means. It's never explained. for people interested in this, there is a major chart in God Speaks that is clearly related to this.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we're up to here. Okay, so we're in the second paragraph after the conclusion.
After the conclusion of the bird series, the kangaroo inaugurates the genus of animals. The last animal form. Okay, let's go down to this.
Yeah,
Baba appears, nope.
the next one.
Yeah. Here, as in later writings, such as God Speaks, Baba uses the word animal to designate mammals. The last animal form is the monkey. Reference was made here to the speculations of Darwin, which are mere theories, though very cleverly thought out. Yet the explanations given here in these lectures are of things actually seen, Baba
Okay.
explained.
Might be
Mhm.
worth reading this note.
Baba seems to be referring here not to empirical observation, but to the immediate inner sight that is gnosis, that is, the evolutionary process that he has been describing is known directly through the knowledge of a seer.
Okay.
Wow. Baba continued, we have been specially marking the first and last species in each genus. The names of
And
all
this might
these,
be worth, I know there are a lot of notes,
Okay.
but
No,
these are
it's
worth
great.
reading, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
God Speaks, page 177, refers to certain species of stone, metal, plant, and animal that have what Baba described as a special seat in evolution. These key species of forms are mostly those that are milestones on the evolutionary road, and they mark the first and the last of a certain general class of species of forms. For example, the first species of bird form to follow the last species of fish form, and the first species of the animal form to follow the last species of the bird form, have a special seat significance in evolution. For more on these transition species, see Appendix 2.
Yeah, that appendix really goes over a lot relating to that topic.
So let's see, the names of all these species, if actually counted up, would run to 84 lakhs or 8,400,000. Okay. So an
Very-
infinite intelligence refers several times to the 84 lakhs of species in evolution. See especially page 14 and the associated footnote. God Speaks mentions 84 lakhs of shakings. Is that how you say it? Or shackings?
Shakings
Or,
is the English word. Yeah.
okay, shakings or reincarnations are in human form. That's an interesting.
Yeah.
So, but instead of plunging further into the details of all of this, let us review the 7 main stages in the evolution of forms. As in figure 34 on the previous page illustrates, stones and metals comprise the first of the major classes of forms. The second is vegetation. The third, worm. The fourth, fish. The fifth, birds. And the sixth, animals. The human form is the 7th and the last in the chain of forms. No further form follows it. But though intelligence in the human form has attained the infinite degree, it is clouded by sanskaras. Hence the curtain between God and the human, as shown in the diagram. To see God or go to God, then one has to trace back through 7 stages, but now this entails what could be called the plains marg, that is, the path through the 7 inner planes. Remember that Atma itself remains the same, unchanged through the assuming and dropping of all of these forms. Now, as we have noted, the human is the last form. There is no form beyond this. In the same way, God abides in the 7th plane. There is no further plane. So having achieved the human form as the culmination of the evolutionary process, if the Atma does not use that form to turn and reverse its course in the right direction towards the plains marg, then it either remains where it is in the cycle of human forms or even reverts to animal or other forms according to its actions. That is to say, sanskaras.
Okay, maybe read this note.
Yeah. In certain of his talks in the 1920s, Meher Baba indicated that the soul could revert from human to subhuman form in certain rare cases. In his later writings, however, Meher Baba said that the human form, when once achieved, is never lost, except through the abuse of powers on the 4th plane. And this retrograde incarnation is impossible. Then it goes on turning and turning, round and round, like an ox in the oil mill, instead of proceeding on to the plains marg.
Maybe you guys don't know the ox and the oil mill, but in India, there'd be a central post and some kind of a grinding mechanism, and the ox would walk round and round and round, and thus crush the grain and extract the oil from it. This is a site that would have been very familiar. Yeah, why don't you read this note where this is explained?
By this common village technology, the ox traces a circular movement, pulling a wooden bar attached to the oil mill at the center. Naturally, the work of the ox is boring and laborious. The figure of the ox in the oil mill, the usual Gujarati phrase of Gani, something I can't read that.
Balad.
Okay, is often used to signify onerous and seemingly futile work, like the labor of a slave. So let's see. Thus it goes on turning and turning, round and round, like an ox in the oil mill, instead of proceeding on to the plains marg. For this onward progress entails the turning of the mind, which does not ordinarily happen. Indeed, it is accomplished only with the greatest of difficulty. Wow. So, what should be done? As a general rule, you should seek the help of one who can turn your mind. And who might this be? A Sadguru. And how would a Sadguru accomplish this, turning your mind and pushing you on into the plains marg? By means of your deep devotion and profound love for him. Such is the cost, such is the price that he exacts. So, dear boys, create LOVE. Yours is the rare good fortune of having a Sadguru in your midst. Indeed, a Sadguru who is ready and anxious to see you making sincere efforts toward the realization of self. So love him with all your might. Love him with all of your heart and soul. Try to create your love for him, and he will surely turn your mind and your eyes, showing you God and pushing you onwards towards him. Indeed, with a Sadguru, the question need not arise at all of his taking you through the tariqat or putting you on the higher planes. If he wishes, if he gets the haki, he can save you all the trouble of traveling through the 7 planes. Indeed, he can tear the curtain of samskaras between you and God and make you one with him, all in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye. It is indeed no mere idle jugglery of words when Kabir says, the Sadguru has that power wherein in an instant he can reveal the essence. In a split second, he can take you across and give realization of God. And the footnote says, literally this translates, in the Sadguru is such power as to give the essence of truth. In a split second, he can ferry you across to the far shore and bestow darshan.
Maybe we could have Ravi or Ram read the Kabir couplet in the Hindi. Are they there?
Right, let me find somebody here. Let's see, where are you?
Sadguru mein wo shakti hai, ki tat dikhave sar.
There's Ram. Ram, can you unmute?
Yeah,
Can you read that?
I'll give my best shot.
All right.
Okay.
It's not in Telugu, so just kidding.
Oh, I see.
So it is indeed no mere ideal jugglery of words when Kabir says, Sadguru में वो शक्ति है कि तत् दिखावे सर, पाव पलक में पर उतर दर्शन दे दातर.
Yeah. Read it again.
सदगुरु में वो शक्ति है कि तत् दिखावे सर, पाव पलक में पर उतारे दर्शन दे दातर.
Kabir always sounds so nice,
Yeah.
very pleasing and very simple.
Yeah, can we read the English meaning, the translation?
The literal translation is in the bottom.
Okay.
In the Sadguru is such power as to give the essence of truth.
Yeah.
In a split second, he can ferry you across to the far shore and bestow darshan.
Thank you, Ram.
Yeah. Okay, so you see how Baba keeps coming back to this theme of love the master at the end of his lectures. Okay, what do you think, Cassandra? Should we shoot for another one, or is that was 2, right?
It was 2, and this one doesn't have many charts. Did we say that? This next, oh, it has a big one.
This is fairly long.
Yeah, I'm getting the sense maybe we should go
Yeah.
to discussion.
Yeah, I think maybe we should.
Yeah.
At the end, the lectures are going to become rather short at the end of the series. So we should be okay.
Hang on, folks, while I stop the recording and start a new one. At that point, I'll give you the ability to unmute.